9. From Jim Rogers, Greg Heimowitz, and Charles Payne, along with Gary Kaltbaum, Rebecca Gomez, and Jerry Bowyer. Welcome, everybody. Ben Stein will be back next week. Miss USA breaking the rules but keeping her crown after claiming an addiction and entering rehab. The same roadmap used by Mel Gibson, Patrick Kennedy, and a host of other famous and infamous offenders. Now, this is how Hollywood and Washington, D.C. operate, Jim, but what if Wall Street operated that way? Would it be bad?
Well, first of all, to err is human and to forgive divine, as you well know. But there is a serious lack of individual responsibility in America these days, and apparently there has been for 2 or 3 decades, which is not good for us. I don't know how Kennedy and Clinton got rehabilitated after what they did. In most countries, they would have to resign and give up their positions. This is one reason we're not nearly as competitive as we used to be.
And if it spilled over into Wall Street, what would happen?
That's not good. I mean, I wish I could get a second chance on my mistakes. Every time I buy a stock that goes down, I wish I could say, hey, wait a minute, guys, I take it back. I changed my mind.
But, Rebecca, it's the Christmas season. It's Christmas weekend. We are a forgiving nation, right?
Well, and some actually on Wall Street do get forgiven. I mean, look at the CEO of Pfizer this week walking away with the golden parachute of nearly $200 million, despite during his 5-year tenure, the stock down, what, some 40%. You know, so in some cases, it's not always good to get this second chance. But as Jim says, we are humans. We are bound to make mistakes. And if somebody is given a second chance, and hey, maybe next time around they'll do some good.
But Charles, do we need more second chances on Wall Street?
Well, I think going back to the original question is it good for America, good for business? I think it's a bad thing. Second chances are great, but the people we're giving them to is bad. You know, these people who are our role models for our kids, I'm really afraid of American youth, for American youth right now. I'm telling you right now, every generation typically has done better than the previous. I think we might have peaked right now. Our kids are watching people on TV. The people they admire have no credibility, have no scruples, they have no morals whatsoever, and they're given 2, 3, 4 chances, and these kids think they can go out and get a DWI and be a Paris Hilton. I'm so afraid for American youth. Not American businesses, because we're going to hire kids from India, Philippines, and Russia, but the American youth are in trouble.
But American business, Greg, this list of offenders like Paris Hilton keeps growing. What about if it spills over to Wall Street? Second chances get thrown around.
Look, having worked at a bunch of Wall Street firms, I don't think in the business world, particularly on Wall Street, you get many second chances. I mean, I think in Wall Street is a very low tolerance, and corporate America, quite frankly, has very low tolerance for second chances. But a lot of the things we're talking about here with these pop icons are really personal issues. And I think America has always given people second chances when it comes to these personal issues like alcohol and drugs, etc. And I think we'll continue to do that. And I think all of us around this table at one time in our lives, I'm sure, have screwed up. Even Jim, probably.
But listen to Charles. I mean, there are not nearly as many incentives now as there used to be in this country to do things right the first time. Everybody sees what's happening. They say, well, if he can get away with it, I'll try the same thing.
You think people don't do things right the first time because they know there's going to be a second chance?
But they don't have as much incentive. They're not as disciplined. There's a word called discipline, which we don't have anymore.
Well, let's get Gary Kay in here. Gary Kay, are you worried about these second chances moving over to Wall Street and hurting business, hurting the markets?
Dagan, a wise man once said it's not the first try that counts, it's the second and third and fourth. Look, show me a success story and I'll show you somebody that's failed many times. The greatness of this country is because we do have the ability to screw up a few times and then get it right. Look, as far as the Paris Hiltons of the world, who cares about them? And to Charles' point, I disagree about India. I know a lot of great colleges in this country that are bringing out great adults to go into the business world. So I disagree 100% on that point.
Well, Jerry, are second and third chances, is that going to be good for business?
Well, you know, it's Christmas weekend, and Christmas is the ultimate proof that God didn't give up on the world. So I don't think we ought to give up on anybody, and I think there should be second chances. But they have to be real second chances. And I think what's happened in celebrity culture and political culture is that rehab has become sort of like the emotional and reputational equivalent of bankruptcy. It's a kind of way to push the reset button, and because I think certain people have figured that out, they can kind of go into it more as a public relations strategy than really get into recovery. I'm all in favor of recovery. You know, our family priest is in recovery, and there are a few people in the world that I would trust more than him in a leadership post. But it has to be real, and if it's all publicists and press releases, and people don't really step down from their level of responsibility, then I don't think it's real.
But Charles, there aren't a lot of second chances, as Greg pointed out, getting handed around on Wall Street. Do we need more?
Also, I think we need to make a distinction. To Gary Gary's point, between a second chance between someone, going out and trying to do a business and it fails, and someone being a drug addict, an adulterer, let's distinguish these two things. They're not the same thing. A second chance to someone that absconds with your money because, he cheated the company isn't the same as someone who just failed at business. So I agree that this is a great country where you can build a business and be a success after many failures.
Name a guy, we were talking about Wall Street, name a guy who got a second chance on Wall Street after doing something wrong. Very few people, right?
I'm just saying in general.
Wall Street has zero tolerance for that. So if anything, Wall Street's a pretty unforgiving place.
Wait, hold
on, let's get Jim and let Jim finish.
The head of Home Depot got huge amounts of money for doing nothing except driving the stock down. Listen to what Rebecca said about Pfizer. Many of these guys do absolutely nothing.
That's a whole different issue. That's a whole different issue. Their compensation versus what they add to the company.
They don't add anything, and they're getting compensated very, very
One at a time. Jerry, go ahead. You wanted to get in here.
Dagan, I disagree that Wall Street doesn't forgive mistakes. I mean, there are a lot of former alcoholics. I know some people in business who are extremely successful who have been clean and sober for 20 or 30 years. It can actually be a great advantage if you come to grips, with the problem of being an alcoholic or an addict.
That's not the kind of mistakes we're talking about.
We're talking about Miss USA.
We're talking about the illegal things that people do on Wall Street. We're not talking about someone who has alcohol problems on Wall Street. Obviously, it goes back to the other situation where clearly there the country's more forgiving. Everyone gets second chance.
Wait a minute. Rebecca, there are corporate leaders in this country like Harry Stonecipher who got fired for having a consensual relationship with a fellow employee. Isn't that a little extreme?
Yeah, that's a little extreme there, definitely. But with Charles's point as well, he's saying that we shouldn't give some of these people second chances. But Charles,
we should give everybody
look at some of the people. You're saying if somebody is addicted to drugs or they make a mistake and they see these people come back. Let me finish my point. And if these people are able to come back and do some good, look, what if we're talking about Miss USA? What if she is able to come back and do some good, and the kids at home are saying, "Hey, look at that. She made a mistake. Now she's doing well.
That's fine. I get
Why
your point.
can't I have a second chance?"
I think, listen, I know people, and I have friends, I have relatives who are drug addicts. I will give them a million chances. I'm talking about someone who deliberately does something wrong, to hurt other people. They don't get second chances. But also there has to be a distinction made, and we should also know, and to Gary's point, our youth are being affected by this. They see this and think, okay, I can make a lot of mistakes and keep getting over.
Jerry, go ahead.
Yeah, you don't throw a whole life away just because it gets banged up a little bit, and capitalism and Wall Street and the markets know that.
But you've got to teach people individual responsibility in this country because we're not going to make it otherwise.
Gary K., final word.
I think we're all becoming too big of critics out there on everybody else. We all have our crosses to bear. I think it's great to have second chances, what make the country great, and where the success stories come from.
Great message, Gary K., on this Christmas weekend. Thank you, and thank everybody.